7 spine-chilling tales revealed that you must never hear alone. Cursed, sinister, and haunted. Rachel lived in Maple Grove, a quaint suburb where picket fences framed neatly manicured lawns. But beneath its picturesque surface lay an unsettling reality that twisted her once ideal life into something dark. As a single mother working night shifts, she treasured the moments with her 2 daughters, Mia and Lily, who filled the shadows of her exhaustion with laughter and light. However, the tranquility was shattered one chilling night when an alarming text illuminated her phone. Lock your doors. Don't trust your neighbors. Staring at the message, panic coursed through her veins. Surely, it was just a cruel joke? She reassured herself as she glanced at Mr. Graves, the elderly man next door, always eager to lend a hand, but tonight was different. Rachel's heart raced as she caught Mr. Graves watching her, his friendly facade slipping into something more sinister. His gentle smile morphed into a stare that made her skin crawl. She shook off the feeling, pushing it to the back of her mind. Yet, when Mia and Lily stirred from nightmares, whispering of shadows, her cozy reality began to turn into a waking nightmare. A chill swept through Rachel as she delved into Maple Grove's history, her fingers trembling against the keyboard. She stumbled upon a story about a family that had vanished without a trace decades ago, leaving behind whispers of a curse tied to their land. Paranoia gripped her as she noticed the eerie similarities. The walls of her home, once a sanctuary, felt like a prison, the very soil beneath them heavy with buried secrets. Desperate for support, she marched to the police station. The officers, dismissive and apathetic, assured her she was simply an overworked mother. Keep calm, they said, their indifference piercing her heart. Who could she trust when even the protectors turned a blind eye? Panic bubbled within her as she drove home, her mind racing with unseen dangers lurking in her neighborhood. As the clock struck midnight, an oppressive silence enveloped Maple Grove. Startled awake by blood-curdling screams, Rachel bolted to her daughter's room, only to find them wide-eyed, frozen with terror. They kept pointing at a corner, whispering the man in the shadows. A cold sweat coated Rachel's brow. The air felt heavy, thick with dread. She reached for her phone, but the floor creaked behind her, and her breath hitched in her throat. It felt alive, pulsating with an unwelcoming energy. With newfound resolve, Rachel stepped outside, her heart pounding loudly like a drum in the thick night air. The moonlight revealed Mr. Graves standing at her yard's edge, an ominous shadow wrapped in the cloak of darkness. His voice sliced through the silence, beginning to recount tales that chilled her blood, stories intertwined with her family's fate. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let us continue. As he spoke, Rachel felt the chill seep deeper into her bones. Distraction seized her when she heard laughter, a ghostly echo dancing through the trees. It was familiar, it was her daughters. Her heart plummeted as she, horror-stricken, realized they were not in their room but outside, shadows flitting beneath the moonlight, beckoning her to join them. And there stood Mr. Graves, eyes darker than the abyss, urging her to confront a reality she fearfully dismissed. Would she embrace the shadows, or confront the lurking terror that had already entwined her fate? The night held its breath, waiting for her to make a choice. Rachel's heart raced as she stumbled back, her breath hitching, eyes wide with dread. Mia and Lily's laughter twisted into something unrecognizable, a malevolent song devilishly inviting her into the night. She forced her feet to remain rooted on the porch, battling the urge to scream. In the depths of her panic, she discerned the gleam of mischief in Mr. Graves' eyes, a glint that sent icy tendrils snaking down her spine. Come on, Rachel. They just want to play. His voice dripped with a sickly sweetness that turned her stomach. Shadows seemed to stretch and twist around him, almost alive, pulsating in rhythm with the rising fear in her chest. No! Stay away from them! She shouted, rallying her instincts as she took a step back. The image of her daughters, so innocent, so pure, flashed before her. They wouldn't understand the weight of the darkness lurking outside their home, nor the gravity of who Mr. Graves truly was. But just as she turned to call for her girls, a soft, almost innocuous whisper floated through the air, weaving around her like a silken thread.
"Mommy, come play." It was Mia's voice, soft and inviting, yet somehow distorted.
Rachel's stomach lurched. With a surge of adrenaline, she raced back inside, slamming the door, the lock clicking into place with a sense of fragile safety. She pressed her back against the wood, feeling the vibrations of her daughters pounding on the other side, their tiny hands a stark contrast against the sinister night.
"Mama, we want to go outside. Please."
The urgency in Lily's pleas tore at her heart. She swung her gaze to the window, noticing the shadows slithering across the yard, extending impossibly long. Mr. Graves stood in the middle of them, the darkness feeling like an extension of his very being.
"Why don't you trust your neighbors?"
A voice echoed through her mind. Images of the vanishing family flashed momentarily, an endless well of despair.
Could history repeat itself? Rachel's resolve wavered as she crouched to look through the glass.
Her daughters were standing now, no longer screaming but staring into the depths of the yard, their eyes wide and locked onto something unseen.
Something that called to them.
Her breath turned shallow. In that moment, she recognized more than fear. There was a pull, a connection to the shadows dancing around Mr. Graves. As if sensing her hesitation, Mr. Graves tilted his head back and laughed, a sound so deep and menacing it seemed to resonate within the very walls of her home.
"Children belong with the shadows, Rachel.
They understand what's at stake." The words squeezed the air out of Rachel's lungs.
Panic spiked again. Was she losing them? Was Maple Grove ensnaring her daughters, pulling them deeper into its cursed history? Whatever bond the children shared with these dark entities, she would not let them fall prey. Drawing in a deep breath, she snatched her phone from the table.
In the midst of terror, her instincts surged to life.
She needed help. Someone would listen.
She dialed 911, the phone ringing like a tolling bell. It echoed the alarm simmering inside her, but as the operator answered, a sinister hiss slipped through the window, merging with the static.
"No one can help you here, Rachel. You should have listened."
The line clicked dead, and Rachel's stomach dropped. The shadows were closing in, and they were more than mere silhouettes. They were a promise of what had been and what was yet to come. Rachel stumbled as she turned toward the girls, now motionless, their eyes reflecting the abyss surrounding them.
"Lily! Mia!"
she cried, but their expressions held a vacant stillness, as if they had turned into porcelain dolls cast from the very darkness creeping in. As she rushed toward her daughters, suddenly Mr. Graves' face emerged from the shadows, grinning, his mouth stretching impossibly wide.
The world around her began to fade, the air thick with an ancient, suffocating dread. Was Maple Grove a home or a graveyard for lost souls?
And, in that moment, Rachel could only wonder as she reached for her girls, was it already too late to be?
Continued.
Rachel's hand trembled as she reached for her daughters, the monstrous grin of Mr. Graves seared into her mind.
The oppressive air thickened, making it almost impossible to breathe.
The walls of the room seemed to close in, pressing against her.
"Mama! We want to go."
The words came from her girls, but sounded hollow, echoing off the walls in a way that made her heart race even faster. She could see their little faces, but they looked different, empty, almost blank, like a photograph faded of all color.
"Please. Let us out."
Lily's voice cracked, a shiver of fear slicing through Rachel's resolve. She could feel the pull of the shadows, that enticing whisper mingling with her daughter's cries.
"Stop it!"
Rachel screamed, the sound ripping from her throat.
"You're not going out there. I won't let you."
She lunged forward, managing to grasp Mia's arm. As she made contact, a jolt shot through her, a cold, unyielding force that sent her stumbling back.
Mia's eyes, wide and ringed with black, locked onto hers with an unnatural intensity. "Mommy, don't be mean." Mia's voice danced unsettlingly, the familiar heat of affection evaporating into something visceral and icy. "We just want to play." "No. You don't understand."
Rachel's voice broke.
"I can't lose you. Not to him."
But the girls remained rooted to the spot, whispering sweet nothings that twisted into sinister promises. The darkness slithered closer, curling around Rachel, eager to consume her. She felt it tangle in her hair, its whispers echoing in her ears like the wind among the trees. "Join us, join them." The door rattled, a sudden violent shake, and the brief shock yanked Rachel back into the present. Mr. Graves' laughter seeped through the cracks, a chilling melody that sent ice through her veins. She edged toward the door as if to push it shut tighter, but the fingers of shadow brushed against her skin.
Open the door. Their voices were insistent now, demanding. Let us go.
They were not her daughters anymore, of that, she was sure.
The connection she once felt had become a fraying thread, unraveling beneath the weight of old darkness.
She could no longer hear their laughter, only the seductive call of the shadows outside.
No. I want tea.
Her voice gained strength as she clutched the edge of the table, every muscle in her trembling body screaming to fight.
You're not my girls. You are trapped.
The power of denial surged through her, but panic clawed at the edges of her mind.
What had changed? What had Mr. Graves done to them?
Then, just as suddenly as it began, silence enveloped the room.
The pounding fists fell quiet. Rachel's heart hammered loudly, resonating in her ears.
She inched closer to the door, breathing heavily.
Lily? Mia?
She called cautiously, dread pooling in her stomach. There was no response. Biting her lip, she pressed her ear against the wood. The shadows had receded, and her daughters stood no longer trapped against the door. Rachel's breath hitched. Help us! The plea twisted inside her, laced with longing, but she heard it an echo of something monstrous simmering beneath the surface. The shadows slipped again, creeping back toward the house. In the stillness, there was a sudden crash from downstairs. Something shattered, something alive, and it felt as if the house itself was awakening, as if Maple Grove wanted her to join this nightmarish dance.
Rachel! A whisper, deep and sultry, crept from the hallway.
The very air felt charged.
No!
She screamed, determination igniting her soul. Rachel glanced back at the girls, still standing, watching with those hollow eyes.
But she needed to know.
She had to follow the sound.
What had happened to the innocence that once resided in her daughters?
Each step creaked underfoot as she ventured down the stairs, an unknown dread gnawing at her core.
What awaited her below? To be continued.
Rachel descended the staircase, the wooden steps groaning under her weight, protesting against her presence.
Each creak echoed like a warning through the suffocating darkness of her home.
A chill ran down her spine, a chilling premonition that something horrid waited just beyond the next turn. As she reached the bottom step, the shadows coiled around her, thickening with a malevolent embrace. She scanned the dimly lit hallway, her breaths shallow and quick, each exhalation stirring the silence like an unwelcome guest. The air grew colder, the walls pulsating with dread, threatening to swallow her whole. Mommy! The whispering lilt of her daughter's voices called again, soft yet menacing.
Where are you?
Rachel's voice trembled as she crept forward, drawn deeper into the oppressive ambience. A door at the end of the hall stood ajar, a sliver of light spilling into the darkness.
It flickered like a distant star in an all-consuming void.
With each inch closer, Rachel felt a magnetic pull, an ancient and consuming fear, the kind that grips your heart and tightens your throat. Suddenly, a crash shattered the stillness. Glass breaking, the unmistakable sound of shattering glass, and fear surged through her like venom. She pushed herself forward, compelled by instinct as much as desperation, gripping the cold railing tightly.
Lily! Mia!
The names escaped her lips like a desperate prayer. The whispers transformed, merging into a cacophony. Come play with us, Mommy. We're waiting. A shiver coursed through Rachel. The once familiar cadence of her daughters now twisted, rife with dark intent. As she neared the door, the light flickered and dulled, threatening to snuff out entirely. Help us! They cried again, but the pitch had shifted. The seduction of the shadows seeped into the fabric of their words. With a surge of determination, she slammed the door open. The room beyond was empty, save for shattered fragments of a once cherished porcelain doll scattered across the floor, glinting like malevolent stars in the dull light.
No, no, no!
Rachel moaned, stepping carefully over the jagged remnants. Please, no! She felt a whisper brush against her neck, a touch colder than the air around her. Join us! The walls began to tremble, shadows flickered between dim light and utter darkness. Rachel turned, feeling the weight of dark eyes upon her. They were there, Lily and Mia, standing in the frame of the doorway, but something was off. Their stance seemed unnatural, like puppets on strings, and the smiles painted on their faces were sharp, edges twisting unnaturally.
What happened to you?
The question clawed at her throat, but their laughter rang out, hollow as the empty hall.
Mommy, come play.
They beckoned with slim, pale fingers, shadows pooling around their feet. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest, the primal urge to flee clawing at her insides. Yet, the compulsion to protect them held her frozen.
You're my girls. Come to me.
But the joy in their eyes had been replaced by a darkness, a hunger that made her stomach churn. They moved closer, the light warping, casting elongated shadows that threatened to envelop Rachel where she stood. In a moment of clarity, she recalled the truth: Mr. Graves had promised them freedom. Freedom from her, freedom taken, not given. A scream pierced the air, but it came from beyond her, the distant shriek of the house, pleading for her to turn back. Just then, a figure loomed at the edge of the darkened hallway. Mr. Graves stepped into the sliver of light, eyes glinting with sick delight, a predator reveling in his final catch. "Rachel," he crooned, voice dripping with malice.
"It's time to choose." The walls began to pulse, shadows reaching out like elongated fingers, beckoning Rachel closer. Torn between her daughters and the chilling figure before her, panic paralyzed her. What would she decide? Would she succumb to the depths of darkness or fight to rescue the remnants of her daughters? To be continued. Adrenaline coursed through Rachel's veins as Mr. Graves grinned, a twisted ecstasy flickering in his pale eyes. The shadows seemed eager to engulf her. She felt their cold breath on her skin, a relentless whisper of dread tempting her to surrender. "No! I want tea!"
she shouted, forcing the words past her clenching throat. But deep down, fear gnawed at her heart. The laughter of her daughters echoed, unnatural and jarring. It made her stomach churn and her palms sweat. "Join me, Rachel," Mr. Graves urged, stepping forward, the shadows parting around him like an ominous tide.
"End this charade. What are you protecting them from? Reality? Release them, release them?"
Rachel repeated, her voice rising in pitch.
"You mean from me? I want tea, let you take them. Not again."
A shiver washed over her as she saw the shadowy tendrils extending from Graves, swirling and writhing like wraiths dancing in darkness.
They advanced, sneaking towards her, beckoning her to embrace the void.
Each step was harder than the last, the weight of dread pressing against her chest, her breaths coming in quick gasps.
"Mommy," the kitschy twin voices drifted through the air, now a chant resonating in her bones.
Please. The figures of Lily and Mia lingered just at the edge of the light, their faces frozen in unsettling grins. Despite the malevolence pouring from them, Rachel recognized flickers of the children she loved, hints of innocence beneath the crushing shadow.
"I see you,"
Rachel cried, desperation clawing at her heart.
"I know you're in there. Fight. Fight him." Graves laughed, a low and sinister sound that echoed through the corridor. "You think they can fight what they want? They're free now, not shackled by your love." His smile widened, revealing crooked yellowed teeth. "Do you dare challenge what they've chosen?"
Rachel took a hesitant step backward, her heart racing like a trapped animal.
"What have you done to my girls?"
"Only opened their eyes," he replied, matter-of-factly, "to the true freedom they seek."
"You're the anchor, Rachel. Tear it away and they will transcend."
"No," Rachel whispered, but the doubt itched at her mind. The thought took root, a terrible, gnawing fear mixed with the tiniest thread of hope. Suddenly, the shadows surged, slamming against her as if possessed by an unseen force. Everything spun, swirling wildly, and she collapsed to her knees. The intensity of the darkness felt palpable around her, thick and suffocating. Tears burned in her eyes as she fought against the encroaching despair.
"Mommy, help us. Come play with us forever."
The voices twisted her heart, sweet, innocent inflections corrupted by Graves' influence.
Rachel's heart shattered at their pleading.
She blinked through the budding tears and forced herself to regain her footing, feeling the sudden surge of clarity wash over her.
No. She wasn't going to lose them this way. "Get away from my daughters,"
she screamed, mustering every ounce of strength within her. The command reverberated through the shadows, echoing off the walls, but Graves only smirked, and the air around him crackled with energy. As the shadows rose to claim her, Rachel charged forward blindly. She launched herself past the encroaching darkness toward the phantom figures of Lily and Mia. In that moment, the laughter stopped, silence falling like a crushing blanket.
"Mommy, don't!"
they cried, but her heart fueled her resolve. She felt their warmth, the bond stronger than the shadows trying to rip them apart. What would happen if she reached them? Could love overpower the darkness? As she dove into the chilling void, everything went black. But just before the darkness consumed her, she heard a voice, low and potent. The choice was made long ago to be continued. Rachel fell into the void, her body weightless as she plummeted into darkness. Time stretched, seconds tangled with eternity, a haunting abyss that threatened to swallow her whole. The laughter echoed, wrapping around her mind like chains. What did Graves mean? The choice was made long ago. The words clung to her like a fog, stifling her breath and shrouding her thoughts in confusion. As the endless black consumed her, she fought to grasp a thread of reality, a pathway back to her daughters. Then suddenly, she landed with a jarring thud, on cold, uneven ground that scraped against her palms. Panic surged through her, and she scrambled to her feet, her heart hammering against her ribs. Around her, shadows writhed and twisted, shapes forming and dissolving as if the darkness itself were alive. "Mommy?" A soft voice filtered through the shadows, one she recognized. Hope ignited like a spark deep within her. "Lily?" Rachel called, straining to pierce through the gloom. "Mia? Where are you? Please, answer me." The floor unfurled beneath her, revealing an expanse of twisted paths that led to nowhere. Branching off in every direction, the corridors felt like veins, pulsing with a dark energy. The sounds of laughter morphed into sobs, small, broken cries echoing in the void. The sound rippled through her, tearing her apart, pulling her deeper into the shadows that sought to entrap her. Rachel, a whisper lingered, seductive yet chilling. Graves' voice floated through the darkness, curling around her like smoke. "You shouldn't have come here. You might just lose your way and your mind." "No!" Her voice rang out defiantly, shaking with power and fear. "I won't let you take them from me again." With each step she took, the shadows recoiled, but Graves loomed in the periphery, feeding off her fear. His laughter slithered around her, a sinister invitation to despair. "You think love can save them? They reside in freedom now, beyond your grasp." But something flickered in her core, a certainty that allowed her to press forward. "They're my children. I'll find them." As Rachel turned a corner, she stumbled into a scene straight from her nightmares. What lay before her was a grotesque reflection of her home. The walls were smeared with shadows, familiar items from her life lay scattered among darkness, warped and twisted. "No, this can't be." She felt bile rise in her throat. A doll with cracked porcelain cheeks stared lifelessly into her eyes, its laughter her daughter's laughter echoing again. A chill seized her. "Lily! Mia! Mommy!" Their voices, a cacophony of cries, filled the hollow space. They sounded close, desperate. "Where are you?" Rachel cried. "I'm coming. Hold on." The shadows surged at her, grasping, pulling with desperate hands that scratched at her skin, each touch like ice. She fought them, clawed her way deeper into the heart of despair that enveloped her. As she pressed on, a flicker of light appeared in the distance, a pale glow in the suffocating dark. Rachel sprinted toward it, a beacon of hope amidst the despair. Closer, closer. But just as she reached the light, it dimmed, revealing a distorted mirror reflecting her own face, twisted with anguish. She gasped, feeling an echo of someone else's pain. "You were too late, Rachel," Graves' voice taunted, sounding from every shadow. "You cannot free what has already been shattered." "No!" she screamed, reaching out for the fading figures. "Mia! Lily!" But as she screamed, the light extinguished, plunging her back into the icy embrace of despair. The laughter transformed into wails, angry, hurt. "You can't save them!" Graves' voice echoed, resonating with triumph. Rachel felt her hope crumbling, fear wrapping around her like a shroud. Was it true? Would she fail them again? Just then, a scrap of memory flickered in her mind.
The bond. The love that coursed through them, it might be the key.
With determination hardening her resolve, she focused her heart's call, drawing on every ounce of love to bridge the distance between them, but shadows surged, swirling like a storm, drowning her voice, suffocating her.
Call, would they hear her?
Would they fight to return to her? The darkness whispered promises of surrender, but Rachel wouldn't yield. She took a deep breath, preparing to scream her love for them one last time, to be continued. Rachel felt the air grow heavier as she summoned her voice, desperate and raw.
Lily. Mia. I love you.
The sound of her own words bounced back, taunting her as if the shadows were mocking her resolve. The wails shifted back to the broken laughter again, echoing all around her, a cruel reminder of what she could lose.
Panic flared in her chest, tightening like a vice.
She pushed ahead, determined to find her daughters, her heart setting the rhythm of her breath. Every step was met with resistance. The shadows pressed against her, oozing like a thick fog, wrapping around her limbs like cold chains. Fear clawed at her throat, rising with every second that passed without her girls.
Please, just show me where they are.
The darkness flickered, revealing fleeting glimpses of memories, their smiles, their voices, the warmth of their hugs. Each image cut through her like glass, burying the dread deeper into her heart.
She couldn't let Graves win, not again. Then, as if in response to her determination, the air crackled.
A figure emerged from the depths, tall, cloaked, and with an unnatural stillness that sent fists of fear deep into Rachel's gut.
Graves.
His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and he grinned, sharp teeth glistening in the dark.
Such conviction! He mocked. But love is a fragile thing, isn't it? What happens when it shatters?
He raised a hand, and the shadows flared, swirling violently around them. Rachel staggered back, covering her face as debris of her memories whipped around her like a hurricane. Pictures of family dinners, summer days, and bedtime stories, everything she cherished, tore through the air, confronting her like ghosts.
No!
She screamed, willing herself not to falter. With her heart pounding, she raised her arms, envisioning her daughters among the swirling chaos.
I will find them. I will save them.
Gathering every ounce of strength, she forged forward, each step fueled by love.
With a desperate roar, she screamed again, Mia. Lily. The darkness writhed, a low growl reverberating through the air. For a brief moment, silence fell.
Then she heard them, a small, tremulous voice cutting through the quiet.
Mommy?
Her heart lurched.
I'm coming. Hold on.
The shadows recoiled, and for the first time, she felt a glimmer of success.
Quick, this way. An echoing giggle followed, familiar yet distant.
It beckoned her, and Rachel sprinted through the dark maze, guided by that precious sound.
Mommy, hurry. Graves roared, no. They belong to me.
His silhouette chased after her, angry, looming. Lost in an enticing blend of excitement and fear, Rachel ducked and weaved through the twisting paths. The shadows reached for her but fell short, as if repelled by her unwavering will. The voices grew louder, a cacophony of laughter and urgency, pulling her towards a brightening section of darkness.
This way. Stay with me. Rachel called, not breaking stride.
She rushed forward, the light intensifying, illuminating the path.
But just ahead, a tearing silence beckoned.
Suddenly, she stumbled into a room of vast space where the air flickered like a candle flame. The walls were draped in an eerie glow, revealing intricate carvings of fear and despair. And then she saw them.
Mia. Lily.
Their faces appeared, but the looks in their eyes were distorted, hollow as if they were trapped in glass.
Help us, Mommy. They cried out, hands pressed against a transparent wall that pulsated like a heartbeat. No.
Rachel reached out, but the wall pushed her back with a brutal force. A churning dread filled her as Graves stepped into view, triumph radiating from his every pore. You'll only trap them more tightly if you resist. Terror gripped her heart as she realized the truth the choice Graves spoke of unraveled before her, like a frayed thread begging to snap.
Would she dare risk losing them forever?
The shadows surged, and Rachel felt the darkness whisper of despair.
Join me, Rachel, Graves hissed, leaning closer, obscuring all hope. Let the darkness consume you. I can teach you to rule this realm together.
A scream bubbled up from her core.
She
squared her shoulders, finding her voice again against the encroaching shadows.
Never. But would she have the strength to stand against Graves, or would her desperation lead her to lose everything? To be continued.
The air crackled with tension, and Rachel's fists clenched. The vibrant light illuminating her daughters' faces flickered, casting shadows that danced like twisted specters. Graves loomed larger than ever, a predator savoring the fear he had sown. With every heartbeat, dread pulsed in her veins.
Mommy, help! Mia whimpered, a tear sliding down her cheek.
The sight pierced Rachel's heart, igniting an inferno of rage within her.
I'm trying.
The pulsating wall throbbed, and for a fleeting moment, Rachel felt its rhythm.
A heartbeat, was it theirs?
The thought tightened her chest. If she could only reach them. She lunged forward again, but a cold gust surged from the wall, sending her crashing back to the ground. Pain shot through her wrist, but she gritted her teeth, forcing herself to rise.
No, no, no. Graves laughed, the sound like broken glass. This ISNTA game you can win.
They will wither away in the dark, just like hope.
But what if I let the darkness in?
Rachel whispered, contemplating the dark temptation.
What if I gave in?
The despair coiled around her thoughts like a serpent, its voice sweet yet deadly.
Join me. Graves extended a hand, shadows curling around his fingers like live serpents. Together, you can save them. Together, we can be powerful.
She hesitated.
Fear turned into something like a siren's call, wrapping around her mind.
But the flickering light of her daughter's eyes struck her. Deep down, she knew that surrendering meant not just losing them, but losing herself entirely.
Mia! Lily!
Rachel shouted again, forcing her heart into her throat, her voice rising above the dissonance of despair.
I will not let him take you.
The light surged with her defiance. For a moment, it seemed to push against the shadows, a tiny beacon against the darkness.
Graves' expression soured, his form quaking with rage. Foolish woman! You don't understand, this is a matter of survival. Either you join me, or accept the void.
His silhouette seemed to expand, the shadows gathering behind him like a storm ready to unleash its fury. Rachel felt the creeping chill, but with each second, she gathered her resolve, the memories of laughter and warmth flooding back. She could feel the pulse of a plan forming. Steeling herself, she took a deep breath and let her love wash over the darkness.
I choose them!
She shouted. The clarity in her voice cracked the darkness, creating fissures that splintered Graves' form.
The shadow shrieked, recoiling as if stung. No!
Graves lashed out, his expression transforming from anger to desperation.
You can't do this!
With renewed strength, she pushed the weight of her emotions towards the wall, each thought driving the shadows back. Images of family, joy, and love spilled forth, gathering into a blinding light as if the sun itself had found its way back into the room. The pulsating wall began to flicker violently, releasing Mia and Lily from its grasp. They stumbled forward, eyes wide, filled with fear and longing. Rachel rushed to grab them, pulling them close while the shadows writhed against the barrier she had created.
Mommy, we were scared!
Lily cried, her small arms wrapping tightly around Rachel's waist.
I know, but I've got you now.
Graves howled, darkness creeping around like a living entity ready to pull Rachel and her girls back in.
You think this is over? You can't resist forever.
But as Rachel held her daughters, she felt warmth spreading through the darkness, a glow that pushed against the encroaching void.
Could they escape?
Or would memories of love fracture into despair? Suddenly, the fabric of the room twisted.
Rachel gasped as jagged cracks split the walls. The air thickened and the temperature plummeted.
She felt a pull, a familiar yet foreboding sensation creeping beneath her skin.
Mommy, what is happening? Mia whimpered. I don't know.
Rachel shouted, panic gripping her heart again. The shadows seethed, reaching out like grasping hands, desperate to reclaim what they lost, and then, she felt it a whisper at the back of her mind, a dark potential awakening. What if her sorrow could become strength? What if she could wield the shadows instead of being subjected to them? The choice loomed as heavy as the silence that enveloped them, a choice that would change everything. Would she embrace the darkness as her own, or push it away once and for all? As the shadows lunged again, closing in around the three of them, Rachel's answer hung in the air, electric and thick, a question with no easy resolution to be continued. The shadows twisted and twisted, grasping for Rachel. Their cool tendrils brushed against her skin, curling around her legs like desperate vines. A shiver of fear shot through her, intertwining with her growing anger. She pressed her daughters tightly against her, their small bodies grounding her to the moment. "Hold on!" Rachel screamed, heart pounding. The darkness trembled, but she felt its pull, the seduction of its promised power, control. What if she could command the very thing that haunted her? "Mommy!" Mia cried, her voice small and trembling. "No!" Rachel shouted at the shadows. They quivered, and a low rumble echoed through the air, vibrating in her bones. Graves stood taller, an ominous grin spreading across his face. "This is the moment," he crooned, the shadows pulsing with him. "Accept the darkness. Use it. They want you to embrace it." The room trembled. Rachel felt her resolve sway, her thoughts darkening like the sky before a storm. She could feel it lurking within her, just beneath the surface, a hunger for power, for control. It felt intoxicating. "No!" she yelled, shaking her head. "I refuse to let you in." The walls shivered violently, and Rachel caught a glimpse of something flickering at the corner of her vision. A shadow broke off, darting towards her, whispering promises of safety in its dark embrace. It felt familiar, tantalizing. The grip on her legs felt stronger, tightening like a vice. "Mommy, please!" Lily whimpered, her voice raw with panic. Rachel's grip tightened around them. "Stay with me," she urged. "Focus on the light, the love. Not the shadows." But even as she spoke, doubt gnawed at her. She could feel the darkness clawing, relentless in its pursuit of her weakness. Each retreating shadow faded from the barrier, pushing into the cracks in the room as if testing their limits, trying for one last chance at domination. "Let go," Graves urged, his voice now low and seducing. "You can save them. You can be stronger than you ever imagined." Beneath her, the ground shivered. The walls expanded, warping with anticipation. Rachel's heart raced. Could she really harness the darkness? In that moment, the room split open, light bursting through the dark fissures that threatened every corner. It pierced through Graves, whose contempt bloomed into fury. "How?" he hissed, shadows swirling around him in panicked tendrils. You can tee." Desperate, Rachel tore her gaze from Graves, looking down at her girls. "We are stronger together," she whispered. "Remember the stories? We are the light in the dark." With a deep breath, she summoned every ounce of love she had, pouring it into a shield around them. The light intensified, coalescing into a brilliant sphere that swallowed the shadows, pushed them back, but Graves retaliated. "You will regret this," he screeched. The darkness surged, twisting into a shape, a monster incomparable, crafted from flickering fears and lost hopes. The blinding light clashed with the monster, creating an explosion of energy that rocked the room, threatening to tear apart reality itself. "Mommy!" Both girls cried in unison, their voices melding in fear as the room warped around them. Rachel felt strength slipping, but still, she pressed on. The shimmering aura shielded them, but doubts tentatively crept into her mind once more. Would love be enough? As the grotesque figure lunged, teeth gleaming with malice, time slowed. "Trust in us," she shouted, unyielding, relentless against despair, and then it came an echoing clang, a sound of something breaking. Rachel's heart raced, breaths quickening as the boundaries blurred, darkness writhing like a living entity ready to snatch them away. Was she truly fighting back, or merely stalling the inevitable? Rachel's chest heaved under the weight of her struggle as the monster drew closer, its chilling breath brushing against her skin. "Choose." The voice of Graves thundered, vibrating through the chaos around them.
The darkness or the void?
As they collided with might, a flash of clarity struck Rachel. The choice hung in the silence, thick and heavy, blurring the edges of her reality: love or power, surrender or defiance, and with one final breath, Rachel prepared to reclaim her own destiny. To be continued. Rachel stood amid the chaos, heart pounding as shadows roared and darkness pressed against her like a living force. The choices she'd been grappling with collided together in a fierce storm. How could she embrace power when love had brought her here? As the monster loomed closer, teeth glinting with malice, she clenched her fists, locking eyes with her daughters, fearing she'd lose everything.
Stay with me.
Mia and Lily clutched her tightly, their small forms radiating warmth that surged through Rachel's trembling body. In that moment of profound clarity, she realized it wasn't about choosing darkness or light but about believing fiercely in the love that sustained her through all the storms, a beacon that could pierce the very depths of night.
Mommy!
Their voices intertwined with fear and desperation, but Rachel felt a spark ignite within her. She drew on every moment of laughter, every hug shared, every story told, letting the flood of love explode within her. Around them, shadows writhed, but the blinding light she'd conjured splintered the darkness, illuminating the room in a vibrant glow. Together! Rachel yelled. We are stronger together. The aura surrounding them intensified, filling the suffocating air. The darkness recoiled, shrieking as the light pierced through the walls, rebuffing the shadows clawing for a foothold against their unity. Rachel's heart raced, and she poured everything she had into that shimmering shield. Determination poured forth like molten steel through her veins. Mr. Graves howled, his shadowy form rupturing against waves of light.
You foolish woman! You don't understand! He screamed, fury etched across his face as the darkness writhed in protest.
But Rachel refused to falter.
I understand perfectly. Love is our greatest weapon.
She shouted as she surged toward the heart of the darkness, her daughters by her side, weaving through the encroaching shadow. Each step brought them closer. The shadows still clawed at her, but she held onto the radiant shield, a barrier that shimmered with life. In that pivotal moment, the grotesque figure lowered its head and charged, launching itself at them in a crazed frenzy, and Rachel felt the air tremble with its fury. But then she caught sight of her daughter's innocent eyes meeting hers, a lifeline that tethered her to hope and purpose. With a fierce roar, she unleashed the full force of their love, amplifying that radiant glow until it burst forth, a shockwave that shattered the darkness into fragments. The implosion sent a wave of light forward, engulfing the monstrous figure and sending it recoiling, shrieking and thrashing, until it began to unravel into nothingness. The walls trembled, then whispered with renewed life. Graves' laughter faded, replaced by echoes of the joy that had filled their home long before. Light flooded the room, pushing back the shadows until they dissipated like smoke.
Mommy, we did it!
Mia squealed, delight flooding her voice, and Rachel swept them into her arms, the weight of their reunion heavy with relief. I'm so proud of you both, she murmured, holding them tight, brushing their hair back, tears streaming down her cheeks. But as the light cocooned them, she felt a final echo of darkness brushing against her consciousness.
You haven't defeated me, Rachel. Graves' voice hissed faintly, a distant echo now.
You can't escape your past. Rachel ignored him. Each heartbeat reverberated with the warmth of her daughters, threading through the shadowy memory of fear that once loomed large. They were together now, anchored by love, the very essence he'd never comprehend. Let us go home, she whispered, knowing they would find safety together, leaving behind the suffocating grip of Maple Grove's curse. Hand in hand, they walked away from the remnants of darkness, back into their lives, where soft laughter waited to fill the spaces once consumed by shadows. Rachel breathed in, each breath a promise. From that day forward, love would reign in Maple Grove, guiding their steps, brightening even the darkest corners. As light flooded the room, illuminating their path, Rachel felt a sense of finality. It was over, but the fight for their lives had only just begun. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, and show how much you care. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What did you think? Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support the channel because this is the moment to show you're a true fan. Don't wait even one more second.